I'm Michael, 28, and for most of my adult life, I've kept a low profile when it comes to family drama. I'm the type who shows up, offers a polite smile, brings a gift, and then quietly recedes into the background. It's not that I lack opinions, but with my family, especially my mom's side, it's always been simpler to avoid conflict. My cousin Lauren, Aunt Denise's daughter, was getting married. Denise has always been obsessed with appearances, the kind with designer bags she can't afford, humble brags disguised as complaints, and a constant need to flaunt her children's success. Lauren was her pride and joy, marrying Adam, who worked in real estate or some other flashy field. Honestly, I barely knew him. The wedding invitation arrived suspiciously late, less than a week before the RSVP deadline. It was handwritten, not professionally printed like the others I'd seen on Instagram. There was no option for a +1, no meal choice, just my name scrawled in cursive and a note at the bottom, "So glad you can make it." At the time, I didn't think much of it, assuming they were behind on planning. But it did sting a bit, especially since everyone else had posted their custom, wax-sealed invitations 3 weeks earlier. Still, my mom insisted I go, saying it would be nice to see everyone, even though she knew I'd been gradually excluded from family events since my dad passed away 3 years ago. He was the bond that kept me connected to that side of the family. Without him, I was just an extra. I arrived early on the wedding day, not out of excitement, but to avoid traffic, since the venue was out of town. It was one of those rustic barn settings, adorned with white string lights and lavender centerpieces on every table. The air carried the scent of champagne and fresh-cut flowers. Guests were trickling in, exchanging loud hugs and laughter. Scanned the reception area for my name card. The initial tables were marked bride's family, groom's friends, high school friends, and so on. I finally located my name, tucked behind a stack of spare chairs near the back exit. My seat was a metal folding chair, without a table, placemat, or centerpiece.
Ow.
Positioned awkwardly next to 2 industrial-sized trash bins. One bin was already half full with flower clippings and soda cans. The other was open, emitting a faint seafood odor. For a moment, I thought it was a mistake. Perhaps they hadn't finished setting up. Then I heard Aunt Denise's voice, syrupy, sweet yet cutting. "Oh, there you are, Michael." "We ran out of space at the real tables," she said, her smile not reaching her eyes. But I told them, "Michael's easygoing. You won't mind." She winked, as if she'd done me a favor. I opened my mouth to speak, but she was already walking away, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor as she pulled a waiter aside to complain. About the rose's temperature? My mom approached a few minutes later, clutching her purse with both hands as if bracing for a storm. She leaned in and whispered, "Just be grateful you were even invited." She avoided my gaze, patting my shoulder like I was a child needing comfort, then vanished into the crowd where my cousins were already lining up for pre-ceremony photos. Speaking of which, photographers were everywhere, 2 men with DSLRs, 1 woman with a drone hovering over the outdoor arch. Every time I tried to approach the flower arrangements for a picture, a coordinator gently redirected me. "Sorry, these are for immediate family and the bridal party," she said once with a tight smile. I looked around. Cousins I barely saw once. A year were being pulled into group shot skids, pets. Even Lauren's old college roommate who'd flown in from Seattle, but not me. I sat in silence through the ceremony. My chair squeaked with every shift of my weight. I felt eyes drift toward me whenever I reached for the bottle of water I'd brought. During the vows, someone from the kitchen wheeled out a garbage cart and swapped the trash bags next to me. I could hear the squelch of food waste and the rattle of glass bottles as the worker quietly apologized. By the time they kissed and were declared husband and wife, I was numb, not angry yet, just invisible. After the applause, people moved into the reception tent, and I lingered near the DJ booth, unsure if I was even supposed to follow. My name wasn't on the seating chart. There was no meal card. I wasn't given a drink ticket or directions. I watched as waiters handed out flutes of champagne and small paper cones filled with artisanal popcorn. The bride and groom entered too. Roaring applause. Clapped too, because it felt like the only thing I was permitted to do. Then something shifted. I overheard Lauren laughing with a group of bridesmaids. "Did you see where we put Michael?" she giggled, literally next to the trash cans. I told my mom I didn't even want him here, but she said we had to invite him or it would look bad. Someone joked about me probably still living in a studio apartment. Another girl chimed in about how I always looked like I'd just come from a Geek Squad shift. That's when I felt it, the heat rising in my chest. That slow, steady burn that starts in your gut and climbs your spine like a warning. I wasn't just excluded. I was mocked, set up, made into a joke at a celebration where I was supposedly family. I remembered letting Lauren crash at my place during a fight with her mom. The $600 I loaned her for car repairs, which she never repaid. The job referral I got her at my old internship, which she ghosted after 2 weeks. Now I was trash. Literally seated with the garbage. I didn't cry. I didn't storm off. I just stood there quietly, watching them sip their champagne and throw their heads back in laughter. The DJ was setting up, having handled the ceremony music and now preparing for the reception playlist. He had a wide smile and a voice that could command a crowd. He didn't notice me until I walked up and tapped him on the shoulder. "Hey," I said casually, "can I borrow the mic for just a second? I just want to say something before the first dance." He hesitated. Are you part of the wedding party?" "I'm family," I said, steady and calm. "It'll be quick. Promise." Glanced around unsure, then shrugged. "Go for it, man. Just keep it PG." I nodded, took the mic, and walked to the center of the floor. The chatter quickly died down. People turned, first row by row, then in clusters. I heard a few whispers. My mom's face went pale. Aunt Denise stiffened. Lauren looked up from her seat next to Adam, the color draining from her cheeks as she realized I wasn't going to toast her. I took a breath. My hands weren't shaking. My voice didn't crack. I raised the mic to my mouth and said, "Before you all dance, there's something you should know about the bride. She's been lying to you." I let the words drop, one by one, slowly, clearly. A few guests murmured in confusion. Others turned to each other, whispering questions. I watched Lauren freeze. Her smile vanished as if a switch had been flipped. Adam furrowed his brow and reached for her hand, but she pulled it away slightly. Aunt Denise stood now, half out of her seat, mouth agape as if she wanted to stop me, but didn't know how without drawing even more attention. I continued, "She's been lying to you, to Adam, and to all of you. But I guess if you put enough fairy lights over something rotten, some people will still think it's beautiful." I got them. The tent was silent except for the gentle hum of the overhead fans. I could feel everyone's eyes on me, but I didn't flinch. I was done being the quiet one in the corner, done swallowing every slight and pretending it didn't hurt. I had carried years of this being treated like the extra, the backup plan, the afterthought. And today, sitting next to literal garbage, they made it clear they thought I belonged there. I shifted my weight and started walking slowly around the dance floor as I spoke. "Lauren, do you remember last July? You called me sobbing about crashing your car on the freeway and having no one to help. I left work early, drove across the city, paid the tow fee, and lent you money to cover your deductible. You said you'd pay me back in 2 weeks?" I turned to the crowd. "Ch. Never did. Never even said thank you." Lauren opened her mouth, but I cut her off. And that wasn't the first time. She's used people, family, like stepping stones. And when she doesn't need you anymore, she forgets you exist. There was a loud gasp from someone, maybe one of the older relatives. Lauren shot up from her seat now, face red. "Michael, stop it. You don't know what you're talking about." "Oh, I do," I said calmly. "I know a lot more than you think." I looked directly at Adam. He looked uneasy, like someone watching a storm roll in, unsure if it would pass over or hit them directly. "Adam, you seem like a nice guy, and maybe you love her. It's your business. But you should probably know she was still texting her ex 2 months ago. That broke the room." People started whispering loudly. A bridesmaid gasped. Aunt Denise took a step forward as if she might rush me, but her heels snagged slightly on the edge of the dance floor, and she froze in place. My mom just sat there, stunned, lips pressed into a thin line. Lauren's voice cracked. "That's not true. You're just bitter because you're jealous." You've always been jealous of me." I laughed, not cruelly, just tiredly. Jealous of what? The lies, the drama, the fake Instagram life you prop up like a trophy. I looked at the guests. You want to know the last time she even called me? Not to invite me, not to catch up. She called because her Venmo limit had maxed out and she needed someone else's account to funnel money through. Adam turned sharply toward her. "What? Lauren, is that true?" She tried to respond, but her mouth just opened and closed, no sound coming out. And in that moment I realized she hadn't expected this. She'd expected me to sit there quietly, to swallow my pride, like I always did. But today it wasn't about keeping the peace. It was about showing them who she really was. "I tried," I said softly, this time more to myself than to the crowd. I tried to be patient. I gave her more grace than she ever gave me. Today. I realized something. I walked back toward the DJ booth, holding the mic loosely in one hand. I realized I'm not the trash here. I was just seated next to it. There were no cheers, no applause, just the deafening silence of a family watching the golden child's mask slip. I set the mic down gently on the booth and started walking toward the exit. Some guests stood in shock. A few glanced down awkwardly at their drinks. One of the groomsmen stepped aside to let me pass, and just as I reached the edge of the tent, Aunt Denise shouted after me, "You just ruined her wedding." I turned slowly. "No," I said. "She did that herself." Then I walked out into the summer night air, the sounds of murmurs and unraveling reputations fading behind me. But the story doesn't end there. 3 days later, I got a message from Adam. 3 days after the wedding, I was sitting at my kitchen table, nursing a coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. I hadn't been able to sleep much since that night, not because I regretted what I said. No, not even close. But because I kept replaying every detail in my head. The look on Lauren's face. The silence in the tent, the way my mom never said a word afterward, and most of all, the part of me that wondered if I'd finally become what they always painted me as. The problem. That's when I heard the ping. I glanced at my phone, a message from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, it's Adam. Can we talk?" I stared at the screen. My first instinct was to ignore it. Whatever fallout he and Lauren were dealing with, I didn't want to be dragged into it. I'd said my piece. I wasn't interested in defending it. Then he sent another message. "I think you were right about everything." That made me pause. I replied cautiously. "What do you mean?" He didn't take long to answer. She admitted it. Okay, the texts, the money stuff, even what she said about you before the wedding. She said she was under stress and that it didn't mean anything. I sat back in my chair, heart thumping a little harder. Not because I was surprised, but because the truth was actually being acknowledged. For once, I wasn't being gaslit or dismissed. "I'm sorry you had to do that," he wrote next. I wish I'd seen it sooner. There was a long pause before he added, "Can I ask you something?" "Sure," I typed. "You think she ever really loved me, or was I just part of the image?" That question lingered. I didn't know how to answer it without hurting him more, but I also couldn't lie. He deserved honesty. He just watched the curtain fall on the person he thought he was building a life with. "I think she loved the idea of what you brought to her life. I think she loved what you could do for her. But if she ever loved you, the real you, I didn't see it." He didn't reply right away. I figured that might be the end of it, until he asked, "Would you meet me for coffee?" "I want to tell you something about Denise and your mom." Now that made me freeze. I didn't know Adam all that well, just enough from a few family events, and we'd maybe shared a beer at Thanksgiving once. But this was different. "What about them?" "Not over text," he replied. "Please." So, the next morning, we met at a quiet little cafe in Midtown. I showed up early and took the corner booth, half wondering if this was a mistake. But when Adam walked in, he looked different. Tired, sure, but not broken. More like a man who had just come through a storm and was still wiping the water out of his eyes. He slid into the seat across from me, ordered black coffee, and sat silently for a moment before he finally spoke. "She was planning to cut you out completely," he said. I raised an eyebrow. Lauren, he shook his head. Your Aunt Denise and your mom. I said nothing, just stared at him. I heard them a few weeks before the wedding. They were in the backyard. Thought I'd gone inside, your mom said. Michael doesn't need to be involved in all this. He doesn't belong in this family anymore. And Denise said, good, he'll just bring the vibe down. We'll just invite him so we don't have to deal with the questions. The words hit like a slap, but they didn't shock me. Not really. Deep down, I think I'd always suspected it. Still, hearing it laid out like that felt different. It's final, like the last thread pretending I had a place there had been snipped. Adam looked at me carefully. I'm sorry. I didn't say anything then because I didn't know how, but after what you did, after what you said, I realized you've probably been carrying a lot longer than I have. I didn't respond right away, just nodded slowly, staring into my coffee as I tried to push down the mix of hurt and vindication boiling up in me. Then Adam leaned in a little and said, but that's not all. You know the wedding venue? Looked up. What about it? She told me your name wasn't originally on the list at all. Denise said she added it at the last minute after one of Lauren's college friends canceled. Said we can just stick Michael by the trash if he shows up. I felt my hands curl into fists under the table. The insult wasn't new. It was just confirmation of something I already knew. But hearing the intent behind it, that they planned it, laughed about it, made the burns settle deeper. Adam exhaled. I think she's been lying to me about more than just the texts. I'm checking into the finances now. She wanted to open a joint account last month, but I had a weird feeling. I think I know why now. I watched him carefully. What are you going to do? He didn't answer right away. Then, he said, I'm not sure yet, but if you're open to it, I might need your help. I narrowed my eyes slightly. Help with what? Adam smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was sharp, calculated. Payback. And just like that, the tables turned, because I thought I'd left the drama behind at that wedding. Adam wanted something more, and I wasn't sure if I was ready to walk away from that just yet. We met 2 more times over the next week, each meeting more deliberate. Adam came with files, screenshots of texts, old bank records, a copy of the wedding budget that Lauren had tried to hide from him. He wasn't playing games anymore. This wasn't just a hurt fiancé trying to make sense of a broken engagement. Wanted justice, closure, and honestly, so did I. He told me everything. Lauren had been siphoning money from an investment property Adam inherited from his grandfather. Small amounts at first, nothing noticeable, but over time it grew, she told him. The funds were being reinvested through one of her cousin's crypto ventures. The cousin didn't exist. It was just a second account she'd opened in Adam's name using forged paperwork. Worse, Denise knew. She had signed as a witness on some of the fake documents. Whether she thought it was harmless or had full knowledge of the scam, we didn't know. But she was complicit. And my mom, according to a text Adam found, Denise had promised to give her a small cut for keeping me in the dark. My mother, my own mother, had taken money to shut me out of a family wedding. I don't think I ever felt something break inside me quite like that. So yeah, I agreed to help. We went quiet for a few weeks. Publicly, Adam stayed engaged. They were working through things and taking space, which gave him time to gather what he needed without raising alarms. Privately, he met with a lawyer and began the process of freezing the joint account. Lauren didn't notice right away. Her automatic withdrawals were still going through, but nothing was being added. Her texts became more frantic. Adam played dumb. Must be a banking error. In the meantime, I took care of my own business. I reached out to a local journalist. I knew from college, Monica. We hadn't spoken in years, but she owed me a favor from a story I'd helped her chase back when we were both broke students. She worked at a local outlet now that covered community news and human interest stories. I told her I had a tip about fraud involving a local event venue and forged financial documents. She bit. Can you give me names? She asked over the phone. I can give you screenshots, audio recordings, and a very cooperative source, I replied. We met. She verified everything. And once she saw the receipts, literally, she told me she'd pitch it to her editor. It was juicy. Not big-time news, but exactly the kind of story that made the rounds on local Twitter and wedding planning forums. 2 weeks later, Everything detonated. It started when Adam canceled the wedding venue payment. The final bill was due post-ceremony, and Denise had been boasting about how they got a discount for paying late. Turns out the discount was a lie, and Adam had been the only guarantor. The venue contacted Lauren first, then Denise. Finally, my mom. All of them were caught off guard. That same afternoon, the article dropped. Bride accused of financial fraud and local wedding scam. Names were partially redacted, but the details were unmistakable. Quotes from an anonymous source close to the couple. Screenshots of messages, redacted bank statements, showing the forged account. The comments exploded. People recognized the photos, the venue, the details. Someone from Lauren's work shared it on LinkedIn. By the evening, her Instagram was locked. Her Pinterest wedding board, which she'd been obsessively updating for months, was deleted. Denise shut down her Facebook, and then the real fallout began. Adam served Lauren with a cease and desist and officially broke the engagement. He didn't stop there. With help from his lawyer, he filed charges for wire fraud and identity theft. A fake account in his name alone carried enough weight to open a criminal case. And because Denise had signed off as a witness, she was named in the report too. My mother tried to call me. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Michael, this has gone too far. You made your point. I deleted it. I didn't owe her an explanation. But just to be sure, I sent her a single message. You sold me out for a slice of someone else's wedding cake. You made your point too. Adam's legal team handled the rest. There was talk of restitution, fines, even jail time. Nothing massive. This wasn't $1 million embezzlement, but enough to matter. Enough to stain their records, cost them jobs, damage reputations, enough that Lauren's friends started ghosting her. Bridesmaids backed out of future plans. One of Denise's charity boards quietly removed her name from the website. The Aita. Best part. Monica's follow-up article. How one groom and a cousin brought down a wedding built on lies. This time, she used names with consent. Adam went on record. So did I. My photo was included, standing in front of the reception tent, alone next to the trash bins. The image had been snapped unknowingly by the event photographer who'd refused to take posed shots of me. Monica captioned it, "Every seat tells a story." It went viral. Not millions of views viral, but enough. Enough to make the rounds in family group chats. Enough that acquaintances I hadn't heard from in years messaged me saying, "Hey, I read that thing. Was that you?" Not enough that my mom's friends started asking her uncomfortable questions. That Thanksgiving, I didn't go home. I went to Adam's. Yeah, funny, right? We kept in touch. After everything came out, he stepped away from the drama and focused on rebuilding. We weren't best friends or anything, but we shared something real and understanding. Sometimes that's all you need. His parents were kind. The food was amazing, and nobody sat me by the trash. I got a text from Aunt Denise that night. Just one word. Why? I didn't answer, because by then, she already knew. Lauren moved out of state shortly after the charges were filed. She's trying to rebrand as some sort of life coach now. Good luck with that. Denise still throws little parties for the neighbors and pretends nothing ever happened. My mom, we haven't spoken since. I heard from a cousin that she told people I spiraled and made everything up. Let her believe it. I don't need their validation anymore, because I stood up publicly, loudly, and on my own terms. I didn't just walk out of a wedding that tried to humiliate me. I made sure they remembered it forever. And I'm not sitting by the trash anymore.